special edition of Late Night Health. I'm Mark Alyn. We're going to take a look at some products that are actually very remarkable. We're going to be speaking with the CEO of Parnell Pharma and Parnell Pharmaceuticals, and their founder and CEO. His name is Francis Parnell. He is Dr. Francis Parnell. You're doctor, aren't you?
Yeah, doctor, right.
He's an MD and a PhD. Georgetown Medical School and all kinds of other great places. He's taught throughout the world, and he's traveled throughout the world. Doctor, welcome to Late Night Health. Medicine has changed over the years. I mean, we now have something called functional or lifestyle medicine even, and you seem to have embraced this because of your product line. Would that be accurate?
Yes, actually, when we started this in 1986, we based it on a natural plant called yerba santa that grows up in the foothills in Northern California. And we wanted to develop products for our patients, things that they needed, but they couldn't get because big pharmaceutical companies were more involved in other projects and other types of drugs and medical devices. So we developed a line of products just basically for our patients.
And your partner's your wife,
right?
Right.
She's a dermatologist, and so we've developed a skincare product line as well during that time.
And you're an ENT and surgeon, and
right.
You did that for over 30 years. You don't see patients anymore?
No, I don't see patients anymore, but she's still practicing after 50 years. So she's the practitioner, and I'm just the drug pusher.
Gotcha. I got it. And it's not really drugs. These are all natural products.
The natural products, and technically, to tell you the truth, it's a combination of medical devices. Some of them, is regulatory-wise, they're classified both in Europe and the U.S. as medical devices.
We have what you termed, when we were just chit-chatting before we started our conversation, the plague. And I think that's a real good name for it. The COVID-19 pandemic. And it's really crunched everybody, not only in the United States, not only in Northern and Southern California, but worldwide. And you've developed a couple of products that may help people combat the disease or even prevent the disease. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so it's a strange way that it came about, but a year and a half ago, we licensed in a compound from New Mexico Tech University. And this compound was developed by a cell biologist, chairman of the department, and by a microbiologist there. And it turned out that the product, which is a compound which consists of a number of ingredients, all the ingredients are already approved for cosmetic use, both in the U.S. and in Europe, and they're used in hundreds and hundreds of hair and skin type of products. So with this combination, they found that it actually killed a lot of these drug-resistant pathogens like MRSA and other bacteria and fungi. And we were developing it actually to treat MRSA infections, which, as you know, are pretty common. And in fact, my wife in dermatology sees many patients with MRSA infections. Fortunately, most of them are just limited to the skin and they're treatable. But however, many people die in the ICUs of MRSA, as you know. So anyway, we found this product and licensed it in, ready to do a submission to FDA when the pandemic hit and everything shut down. Everybody at FDA was working at home. Nobody was working. So, and we couldn't proceed with the project basically. So what I did was I spent time looking for a level 3 laboratory that was government approved to do testing on the SARS-CoV-2 virus, just in a chance that it would work, because we knew we had done preliminary viral bacteriophage testing at New Mexico Tech and found out it was effective. So long story short is, after about 6 months, which included finding a lab and waiting in line and getting the testing done. We found out that this compound, when combined with our existing products, killed greater than 99.9% of the COVID-19 virus. And so the
Wow.
products that we then developed were basically on our existing nasal spray and oral dry mouth spray and our face and body wipes. Now, the fact is that most of the virus enters through the nose. And so that was kind of fit right into our existing product.
And so if God forbid, I'm exposed to COVID-19, and there's two reasons. One, the most important is I'm a big baby. I'm healthy, but I'm a big baby. If I sprain my hand or bump something, I cry. Everybody knows that who knows me. How does this work in helping me and others not come down with COVID?
What it's really doing is it works on the virus before it enters the cell. Once the virus enters a cell, basically it's a systemic infection, and you can't really do too much for it other than, of course, the vaccines. Now, if we can reduce the viral load in the nose and the mouth and throat, because it does enter some, you do have some in the mouth and throat, and of course, you always talk about the hands. But the main entry, of course, is the nose, just as it is for any of the viruses. And so basically, what we found was that the mechanism of action of this compound is it basically destroys the outer lipid envelope of the virus. So as long as it's there, but it hasn't invaded the cell, then we would expect, based on the in vitro testing, that it would destroy the virus.
A friend of mine who uses your product tells me that before she walks into a supermarket, she spritzes each nostril twice because it makes her feel better, just in case she's exposed in the market. Would that be one application?
Exactly. I think before you go out, for instance, we label it as 2 sprays each nostril twice a day. But obviously, if you only go out in the morning and you're at home after dinner and everything, you don't need to be doing it 3 times a day. But basically, before you go out and when you're mingling with other people or traveling, it's ideal to use it then, basically to hopefully prevent any viral load there in your nose.
And it also helps to stop MRSA. What about MRSA's a lot of times on the skin, and then it gets into the bloodstream, and then you have problems that are could be, as you mentioned before, fatal.
I think that when the virus came about and all the attention was directed toward that. However, a huge amount of attention is being paid by the World Health Organization and by CDC on developing products to treat basically drug-resistant pathogens, because many of these bacteria now, because of the overuse of antibiotics, there are many, many pathogens that are very dangerous. And that includes, of course, the MRSA that we talked about. It includes Candida auris, which is a new fungus that was discovered 4 or 5 years ago in Japan. It's very hard to culture. We know that this works for that, as well as Pseudomonas and a lot of these other type infections. So it's kind of ironic that, even though that's why we licensed it in, and we know that the virus will hopefully be going away, that the real long-term use of the Michael Delen's compound is going to be in treating drug-resistant pathogens, because they all develop resistance. And we have slides. They've done many, many cultures at New Mexico Tech that show the development of resistance with many of the medications that are actually approved for use.
What about you also have some wipes? Are those also effective in the treatment?
Yes, basically they have the same formulation as the wipes have the same formulation as the nasal spray. Actually, it's a saline based with a nice wipe for the face and hands, because as you remember, everybody's always talking about washing your hands, etc., and using alcohol or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, soap and water works the best. Alcohol is not as good. This works basically similar to soap, in the sense that it's the way that its mechanism of action. So it's good basically when you can't get soap and water, you can just wipe your hands or your face, whatever, because you're not transmitting it to your nose.
So, and I can see with businesses opening up, and we need that. I mean, here in California, where you and I are located, uh, the governor has eased the restrictions, and they're letting. I think they're letting people eat outdoors. I'm not sure if we have indoor dining yet or not, but you could take one of these wipes and wipe down the table that
Yes,
you're
hmm
sitting at.
definitely. Yeah, although we didn't develop it basically for using for, external surfaces. Uh, there are many other antiseptic products that are useful for that too. But the fact is, this product, essentially, you could look upon it as an antiseptic that you can use topically, and this is kind of the whole mechanism of action.
And it's because it was developed in conjunction with your dermatologist wife. It's probably good for the skin.
Yeah, it is. Basically, it's got a nice saline glycerin base along with the yerba santa. Now, the yerba santa, uh, the natural product that we have six patents on it. The yerba santa early on is a real interesting story in itself, because it was actually used by the Native Americans, many, many years ago. And they used to smoke it actually for asthma, which is hard to believe, but
Oh my!
that's what they used to do. But they also made herbal teas to treat bladder infections, sore throats, things like that. We came across it because I had a patient that had a cancer of the voice box, cancer of larynx. He was in his mid 70s, but the interesting thing was that he was a retired PhD food chemist from Del Monte Foods, and he got the cancer of the larynx, and he couldn't find anything after X-ray treatment, and he couldn't find anything that relieved his dry mouth. So he started making an herb tea, because his mother used to make an herb tea for him when he was a kid up in the foothills in Northern California. So the herb tea helped him. So he started chewing on the leaves, and he got dramatic improvement. So he came to me with it in a decanter with frozen lemon and lime, and he said, "Here, try this." And so I did. So that was the beginning of that story, which I thought was pretty amazing. So it took a couple of years to develop the product, which was the mouth coat dry mouth spray, which he was our focus group of one person, because we only had to please him. We didn't have to please 200 people in a big focus group. So
Got it.
anyway, that's why we came out with that back in 1986, 87. And so that's still the
That was one of
basis
your
for a
first
lot of
products,
the,
then.
right. That was one of our first products. And we subsequently did other products, that we needed. But the Yerba Santa story came about because it was, unlike a lot of herbal products which have side effects. Yerba Santa was actually approved by FDA back in the late 1930s, because it was used as a flavor for foods and bad tasting medications. Because you may remember that they used to use a lot of quinine type products for malaria. And of
Right.
course, they used to use yerba santa as a flavor, and so technically, it's a flavor. But we isolated these natural mucinous substances and glycoproteins. So you can look upon it as like a super aloe,
And it
uh, is
and
how
it
it works.
and you've got one. You've got the mouth. It's called mouth coat, and
Right.
this is for dry mouth. And this also has the microdelenes in it as well.
Correct. Right. Exactly. So we added it basically to the nasal spray and the dry mouth spray, where it works. And we also have a topical cream that we did it with. but we haven't made that up yet because the main push right now is to get the product, in the nasal spray primarily.
Gotcha. By the way, if you're interested, and we have this up already on our video screen, you'll be able to see parnellpharma.com. That's parnellpharma.com, and you can go there, learn more about the company, and you can also get some of their products, and you can also find some of the products at amazon.com, and more products will be available at Amazon shortly as production ramps up. Dr. Parnell, the there's a dichotomy between natural companies such as yours and I'll call them old-fashioned pharmaceuticals. I mean, there is a difference. Can you explain that?
Yeah,
In
it's
their
a really
philosophy?
interesting. It's really interesting because a lot of the drugs, as you know, I forget what the percentage of drugs is, but it's very high. I don't know. I think if I remember, it's between 60 and 70% of drug products are derived from natural substances. And that's still the case. I mean, everybody, I think many people remember the old digitalis. Digitalis in its original form was just a digitalis leaf rolled into a little ball, if you want to look
Huh.
at it that way. And now, of course, it's got all kinds of pills and everything else. But the fact is, a lot of these products uh, came about because of, uh, they're all natural products. Birth control pills, the original derivative was, I think it was sugar beets or something like that.
Sweet
So, I
potato?
mean, yeah,
It
sweet
is.
potatoes, something,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
was. So a lot of these things came about that way. But once you start getting into the big difference really is the claims. And this is where, as you know, the FDA is food and drug. So, you get into the fact that, well, a natural product is a food, and once you start making all these other claims, it becomes a drug. Basically, is what happens. So that's kind of how it operates, and so there's this overlap, and there's also this confusion about it because of the fact that from a regulatory point of view, and then along the way came the Medical Device Act in 1976, which I was involved in originally and working on. And so now we have food, drugs, medical devices, and cosmetics. So you have to be one or the other, and so there's no other way around it.
And as a CEO of the company, you're always interacting, I'm sure, with the FDA and and other agencies to make sure that your products are in compliance. I just received an email earlier today before we started. The Natural Products Expo West, which is an industry-wide convention that happens every year in Southern California in Anaheim. They just announced they're going to make it virtual this year, and it's going to be. I mean, they get close to 100,000 people walking through in about 3 or 4 days. And you've been there, haven't you?
No, we should be going to that. Now, the interesting thing, we wanted to go to the Natural Products East a number of years ago, and I don't know if we got in too late, but a lot of our marketing historically, being a small company early on, we just kind of focused initially on the cancer market for particularly the dry mouth product and others. So what we did was we just focused on that, and we depend on going to trade shows and journal advertising. We don't have a sales force. Now, the fact was we should have been going to the natural product shows, and still should be,
Next
because
year.
yeah, because the fact is that, just for instance, the last we depend on trade shows and heavy sampling for the products, and we do have the free samples on the website, for instance, for the dry mouth spray, the mouth coat. Now, we go to about, I'd say, 15 trade shows a year normally. our last show that we did was in February 1 year ago, which was a dental show in Chicago. It's a big, they call it the Chicago Midwinter Dental Show. Now, we haven't done anything since. That includes about 12 meetings that we've not gone to, which we normally would be going to, which all have become virtual. Now, we haven't gone to any virtual meetings because I'm still not sure of how they work, to tell you the truth. But we have signed up for one for the first time coming up in Ireland. It's called the Irish Dental Association. So we figured with that one might be it'll be relatively small and kind of simple, and see how it's going to work. But we haven't quite gotten into that virtual meeting thing, other than our own, business and, interviews such as this. But it's
Well,
going to be interesting. But we should be going. There's no question. We should be going to the natural product shows, and that shows your a lack of marketing skills.
well, that's the granddaddy of them all. It really is. I've been to them for over 30 years, and it's just amazing. It truly is. In our last couple of minutes, the fact that your products are over the counter, are they? I want people to know that they are still effective. You've done research. You've already told us you go to the laboratories, and that they work.
We want to make them cost effective, and so as a result, when you hear about the drug prices and $3,500 for a treatment remdesivir and all these expensive products, our whole idea is to have products that are readily available, that are over the counter. We used to have a lot of prescription drug products, injectables, and so on. And in fact, we got one of only 21 new drugs approved by FDA in 1987, which was an injectable for psoriasis, which is a skin condition, and also for eczema. We stopped doing prescription drugs because I thought that, what if we keep these low cost relatively and over the counter, that more people would have access to them.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, and keep developing products like this. This is terrific. If you're traveling, and not a lot of, I think the travel industry is down by 66%, and the nasal spray, Pretzi MD, is something that is. When I travel, this is going with me. I'm telling you. I thank you very much for joining us. And again, if you want information about the product, go to parnellpharma.com. It's up on your screen right now, parnellpharma.com. I'm Mark Alyn. Thanks for watching. We'll be back very soon.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. I'll stop this.